Hey everybody, it's Josie. Welcome back to Cedar Creek Homestead. Well, we're getting ready and getting around this morning to go down to the church and work on Vacation Bible School preparation, getting the church decorated up for the kids for next week, so that their little imaginations can go crazy when they get in there, turning the sanctuary into under the sea. Our theme is scuba, and so we'll have dolphins and octopuses and jellyfish and all kinds of things in there for the kids, and coral reef and just all that stuff. So we're busy doing that, but I wanted to jump on here this morning and try to encourage your hearts just a little bit. We all know that all of us need encouragement. So many crazy things seem to be happening politically and just in life in general. And so, all of us need somebody to say, it's going to be okay. And I'm telling you this morning, it's going to be okay. So I have this wound that I needed to take care of, get it covered. And so I went to my stores this morning, my supply. And I needed a bandage that was a little bit wider than what a normal bandage was because, there's not much coverage or not much area on a regular Band-Aid where it won't stick to the wound. And I needed something that was a little bit wider. And I knew I had some bandages that were a wider bandage. And I found them, but I did notice that I need to get some more. And so I thought, well, I need to go through it's that time of year. You need to go through your stocks, take stock of all of the things that you have. It doesn't make you crazy. It doesn't make you some weird out there person. I think a lot of the shows that we've had in times past that were prepper shows made people over the top and made people worried that people were going to think that they were crazy. We're not crazy. And we're not over the top. We're simply trying to live like what our parents and grandparents did, that they were stocked and they didn't have to run to town every single time a need arose. They had things in stock in their houses, food, medical supply, whatever it happened to be. And so, I want to encourage you this morning to check over your supplies and just make sure, if you use things, sometimes like if you have a wound or something or something has to be used and you'll use it up and that thing will get better and you'll forget to restock. And so I'm just reminding you, just a little reminder this morning to go through your stocks and take note of the things that you need to add. Remember that seasons are changing. Before too long, they'll start stocking, all of the stores will start looking to back to school. And so they'll be discounting their summer supplies and getting ready for school to start, clothing and that kind of stuff. And so you can find, if you'll watch those stores, you'll be seeing some good deals go on. Usually in the summertime when they change seasons, you can get deals on towels and different things like that. Now, if you've been with me for very long, you know that I usually this time of year when it goes back to school season and they put their beach towels and that thing on, those kind of things on sale, I usually get 2 or 3 and put it back in my stock because you'll never have enough of that stuff, especially if you live on a farm or you have animals. There's always, or little boys or girls, children, you always have a reason for something. There's always a spill. At my house, there's always a spill. And you'll grab those towels. If they get ruined and you didn't pay that much money for them, you got them on clearance, then you're not going to be as upset if your nice, big, fluffy bath towels didn't get ruined. But anyway, just a reminder to check your stock. Make you a list of the things that you need. Always remember to rotate your supplies so the things that need to be used first are up front where you can get it and not buried in the back. On to what I wanted to encourage your hearts about this morning. My entire life, my family enjoyed watching Westerns. I grew up watching Westerns. Married a man that loved Westerns. Gunsmoke was his favorite. Marshall Dillon. and Miss Kitty and Festus. He liked Clint Eastwood and John Wayne. A lot of times on those movies and Wagon Train and different shows like that, you would see the story develop, and they would be going out west somewhere, and you would see them circle the wagons in the evening time. Now, sometimes they would circle the wagons because they were going to be into this big epic battle, and so they would circle the wagons, and they were, they would fight cattle rustlers, or there would be some other thing going on, and so they would circle the wagons then. But they also circled the wagons in the evening time to protect the livestock and the other animals that they had there with them on the trail, the horses, and there would be cattle, and there would be other things that needed to graze but also needed to be protected, and so they would circle the wagons. But it was also a way for them to signal that their journey was done for the evening, and they would get the wagons circled up, and they would begin to build their campfires at their wagons so that their evening meal could be prepared. If they were in an area where they could build fires and fix a hot meal, they could, look after their horses or ox or whatever it was that were pulling their wagons, and check their hooves and do all of the things that needed to be done. Make sure, that they were well fed and well stocked, watered. And then, they could just kind of unwind for the amount of time that they were going to be there. Sometimes they would, be there for several days. And if they were by a good water source, they would stay and let the animals rest, and let them rest, and let the women wash the laundry, and the men would do different chores that needed to be done so that the wagon train could move on and possibly go a little bit further along the way before they had to take a long stop again, not a nightly stop for sure, but, sometimes they would lay over for several days. And, sometimes you would have a wagon train that would have several members of the family with wagons, and they were all going together to whatever location. But a lot of times the wagon train began with wagons of strangers. They didn't know each other. Sometimes there might even be a kind of a language barrier because there would be immigrants, lots of people that would come into the U.S. from New York and other areas, and then they would travel out west to wherever they were heading. So there were settlers, or there were immigrants, and there were people that perhaps had been born and raised in the United States, but they were moving out west for whatever reason, families and people that were taking their businesses and in that easiest way for them and safest way for them to move prior to trains and modes of transportation that way was to go in a big group. And so they would go head west, and they would take their evening stops to regroup and, take stock of everything that needed to be done and take care of the animals. And the wagon train circling the wagons, there were several purposes for that. All that I just explained to you, yes, it was a defensive mode as well. The wagons provided ways for them to be able to protect all around them, have more than one set of eyes on everything. They had wagon scouts and people that watched that way, yes, but they also had eyes of all the individuals all the way around. It's like in the movies when you see two people get back to back, and this person's protecting this way and this person's protecting that way. And wagon trains were no different. They were, going out into country where wild animals existed, and they had to protect that way. There were those that wanted to take advantage, cattle rustlers for, thinking that it was easy pickings to run off all of the cattle that was along with them, and attacking and stealing their horses and being off with them. And if you steal all the horses off of a wagon train and you have a bunch of wagons sitting there with nothing to pull them, can't go after you and get their horses back. And so they had to protect against those things. There was strength in numbers, and they would go from fort to fort or to towns, and they would resupply and restock and do all those things, because it really isn't feasible. Now, on the show like Wagon Train, if you've ever seen it, and they tell a different little story each day. A lot of times they'll show you inside the wagon, and you're like, wow, this is a neat little story. And you get to thinking about all the stuff that's inside the wagon. Some of the stories will have, furniture set up in there. And you have to remind yourself that that's inside a wagon. That's Hollywood. I can imagine that there was not, and we all know that there was not that amount of room for anyone heading out west or wherever you were going in the wagons like that. You had to be very thoughtful and very strict about what you took. And I'm sure along the way, people had to dump their loads. You see that on the movies too. And no doubt that's true. People tried to take things. I remember when our house burned in Arkansas, and we had a storage building that had things that we needed to move here to Oklahoma after we got here and got settled. We took we have an enclosed cattle trailer, a pretty good sized one. And so we took it, and Howie told me, he said, "Now, Stace, we can't just, keep coming back and forth, because it's a drive, quite a little drive. And let's get everything we want on this trip. Everything you want, get in that trailer, because we're not going to bring the trailer back again." And I was telling Cheyenne the story the other day when we were packing some stuff up. I told her, I said, I can pack. Now I can, that's not a bragging statement, because believe me, it's not a beautiful job, but I know how to fill every little nook and cranny and get stuff in there. And I can imagine heading out west on a wagon train. That's probably the way I would have been. I would have been like, well, I can get this here and I can get this there. And no doubt, as wagon train after wagon train went, they would come upon things, and they portrayed this in the shows, where people had to dump some of their things because they would get to areas where it was treacherous. They had to go through a pass, and it was all they could do, single file, getting wagons through there with their horses and their loads. Or maybe they become to steep inclines and the horses couldn't pull the load. They start out really strong and really healthy, and sometimes by the end of the journey, they were weary. The horses were weary, and it just got to be where it was just too much, and so it made it necessary for them to carry a certain amount of things, and then have to stop along the way and purchase, like flour, different things that they might have not had enough of to see them throughout the journey. Because of course, it wasn't like today's travel. They were always on a schedule per se, because they had to beat the weather. But the weather a lot of times would inhibit them from going on to their journey too. If they ran into lots of rain and they couldn't cross the swollen rivers, or they ran into snow, or they'd have to, stay over. Just different mud. All of those things changed for them. And that's how it is in life with us too, right? Things change, and we have to adapt to it. We accounted for so long, and it turns out that it's longer than what we accounted for. And so that's one of the things that we have to think about when we're making preparations for our lives and our stocks. We have to prepare. I tried to prepare what I know I have to get to in my journey, whatever it is, wherever it is, get from point A to point B, but then go beyond point B further. A good example would be your garden. If you say, I need X amount of green beans or tomatoes to put up until I get green beans or tomatoes out of next year's garden. And so you would think, okay, so I know I'm going to use this many jars, and I'm going to, whether you're canning it or whether you're purchasing, whatever it is you're doing, I'm going to say I need this many for this many months, or this many meals, however it is you want to prepare. And so I tried to say I have that amount covered, but I want to go past that too, because I know that if something was to take place, something was to happen, I want to get to from point A to point B, yes, from this day to this day, or from this month to this month. But if something should happen and I have to use those supplies, or I have to share those supplies with someone else, or there's a crop failure the next year and I'm not able to grow something myself and have a good harvest, or something happened worldwide and there wasn't a good supply. Like when COVID was going on, I couldn't find cornmeal anywhere. I had overlooked cornmeal on my supplies, and I don't use a lot of cornmeal, but I needed cornmeal, and I didn't have it and couldn't get it anywhere. And cornmeal wasn't something that I would have thought that would have been an issue. But anyway, from point A to point B and beyond, I tried to say, okay, I'm going to wait. This should be the time of the next year's green bean harvest, so to speak. And so I want to have enough to get to that. But just in case, I want to have more. And you don't have to be a hoarder. You don't have to have gobs and gobs and stuff. But set yourself a goal and perhaps extend your goal some, so that you have some things in there that will increase the amount of time that you have before you have to worry about not having it. Now, one thing about circling the wagons, defensively, yes, because you can see things coming on and see things that look kind of stickery, but sometimes you don't. And so your set of eyes might have missed something that somebody else was able to see. And so that's what the importance of us working together, looking out for one another. I remember, it's been quite a few years back now, but one time Foxy, my dog, was out, and he went up to our neighbor's house that we get our hay from. This pasture right here is the neighbor's pasture, and he has a house back in there that way. And Foxy went over to his house, and so our neighbor came down and knocked on our door, and we answered it. And he said, "Hey, I just wanted to check and make sure y'all are all right." And I said, "Yeah, we're fine." And he said, "Well, your dog, Foxy, was up at our house and said he was kind of acting funny. And so I just kind of thought maybe something was wrong down here. And so he came all the way down to our house just to make sure that we were okay." And, I think it's important for us to look out for each other that way. I think sometimes we want to be R4 no more. And what you will see on a wagon train is it's more than one wagon. And your wagon can't protect, can't defend, can't encourage if there's not any other wagons around. I can remember another time in my life when I went on a trail ride with my family, my siblings, of course, and my parents. We went on a trail ride with a bunch of other people. And I'll tell you, it was when I was really young. I don't even remember who the people were. I just remember being in a wagon and, riding in the wagon and seeing all the other horses, seeing the wagons. I don't even remember where we went. We just went on this trail ride, and it was a long trail ride. It wasn't just, 20 minutes and it was over. It was a long trail ride. When we got to our destination, everybody gathered, and the women prepared a big meal. And of course, I don't remember what that was, But I do remember the ladies got together. We were there. I think we stayed a couple of days where we were at. Perhaps camped out. I don't remember that. I just know we were there a few days. And I also remember that the ladies made popcorn balls. And as far as I know, it's the first popcorn balls that I ever had. And of course, as a little kid, you think, oh, that's the greatest thing ever. And so I admire the community that they had. You draw strength in numbers. That's why, like with our little church, I love going because those people in your church becomes family to you, and you look out for one another. And, when there's needs and, you call one another and you encourage one another. And if one's in the hospital, you check on them, or you maybe take meals to their family or do those things. And I love that we build that sense of camaraderie. And that happens when you circle the wagons, not in a bad way, but circle the wagons. Yes, we want to protect and we want to unify and we want to look out for one another. Always sharing the work always lightens the load for everyone, I think. And I can remember another time that my cousins and my uncles had raised some hogs, and they decided that they were going to process those hogs themselves. So the men processed the hogs, got all the different cuts of meat, and they brought in all this stuff for all this meat for the ladies to grind and to make sausage patties. But sausage up in the freezer for the different families. And it was a wonderful time because it lightened the load for everyone, yes, but you spend time fellowshipping and encouraging one another. And, one might have an issue or a problem, maybe in their child rearing or whatever the case may be. And they took that opportunity to counsel and encourage one another. And I guess that's what I'm doing here, is trying to encourage you guys. We're circling our wagons, so to speak, and we're taking on this mode here, a defense mode. Yes, we're looking out. We all see the storm clouds rising, don't we? We all see the things. And, part of being an encourager is you want to be an encourager, and you want to be uplifting, and you want to be happy, and you want to lighten people's hearts and try to help along their burden for a little bit. But at the same time, you can't just cover your eyes or bury your head in the sand or wear rose-colored glasses. I see myself, storms brewing and fires that might have to be put out and all of these different things. And I don't want to be Pollyanna about things. I know that things are rough in the country and that people are hurting. We were at the church yesterday, and our little food pantry that we have at our church is staying empty all the time. Not that we're not putting food in it, but food is being taken out. So we could fill that pantry up, and within a day or so, it's gone, and there's more food needs to be put in there. Yesterday, while we were working, Shine and I were up there in the sanctuary working, and there's windows in the sanctuary, and you can see out to where our little community food pantry blessing box is at. And this car pulled up, and a lady got out of the passenger side, and I wasn't trying to stare or anything like that, but I would happen to be right there at that window working, so I just kind of stepped back because I didn't want her to see me and be embarrassed, thinking that somebody might be pointing fingers or anything, and I surely did not want to do that. I've had to have help before, and we don't want people to be afraid to get help, but it broke my heart because she opened the food pantry door, the blessing box door, and either there wasn't anything in it or there wasn't anything that she needed. But like I said, that our food pantry, everybody else's food pantries are having to be stocked just all the time. So I do know that there is a need out there. I know that that people are hurting. And I think that sometimes the government is out of touch on where people are really at. They look at numbers. They don't look at that. They're not looking at the face that's behind a number. They're not watching school age children go to bed hungry because school's not in session right now. And the kids getting a meal from school. I think maybe sometimes people don't understand that there are children that get their breakfast and they get their lunch at school. And those babies have a little bit of a fear about going home at night and having something to eat. And so they really, summertime is a scary time sometimes for the children and their parents because they are fearful. And so I know there's a need. I saw it yesterday. I saw the need that was there. And there's other things on the horizon. We all know the political scene and all the stuff that's going on, no matter what party you're affiliated or whatever. We all know that there's a mess there. And we're going to be hearing that, for the next all the way into January, the next 6 months, 7 months, we're going to be hearing all this stuff, all these things, and promises and all that. And we need to circle the wagons. We need to, take a stand and, bind together and hold this thing together because people are hurting. And we're going to provide meals before Vacation Bible School starts, because in our hearts we realize that there are kids that probably will come that haven't had a good meal or haven't had a hot meal anyways, or something to fill their tummy before Bible school starts, so that they can, concentrate on having fun and hearing the story and doing all the Bible school things, crafts and games and all that stuff. We want to take care of them physically and spiritually. And so, the circling of the wagons. Now, I looked that up, and there are some that believe that is a derogatory term, that it is a racist term, and I do not mean that at all. So you may ask me, well, what do we gain out of circling the wagons? We gain strength in numbers, encouraging one another, looking out for one another. Sometimes one person has skills that someone else may not have, but then that person has something that maybe the others don't have. Maybe you know how to grow a garden and your neighbor doesn't. So you can provide them with tomatoes or squash. We all know that we're overrun with squash. If you grow squash and zucchini, there's always plenty to share. And maybe they know how to sew and you don't. And so, they can, sew something for you. We all need encouragement to do the best that we can possibly do. And, keep stocking, keep putting stuff back. Don't let people put a crazy prepper tag on you. You're preparing for your future, making sure that you have a stocked pantry, because things happen. And anybody that denies that has had their head buried in the sand, because we all know that things happen. My sissy lives down in Louisiana, and it's hurricane season is upon them, and she and her family have to make preparations for those kind of things. No matter where you're at, you have to make preparation. Out west, they have a lot of problem with wildfires, and Oklahoma, here in Oklahoma, we've had some big wildfires out west of us. It's much, much drier, but it's been, last 2 summers have been extremely dry. So far this summer, it's not been too bad. Everything is still really green. But we have been going a little bit longer spells. We had a really wet springtime, and the ponds are full, the creek's running. That's all good. But we are in the 1st of July, and we got to go through July and August. And so we know things can get dry here as well. And so it just makes sense that things happen. We've had big storms have happened. Part of the area that I grew up in Arkansas was hit by tornadoes back last month. And, you know, some of those areas are devastated. And so it pays to be prepared. It pays to circle the wagons and know the people that are in the next wagon over, and be willing to help one another out, and be an encouragement one to another. We all need encouragement. It's going to be okay, because it is, if we all work together. You know, there were people that went on those wagon trains that no doubt didn't have any skills, and others had to pull together and to help them. You know, maybe they didn't know how to take care of their horses properly, or how to take care of their wagons, or grease the wheels, or whatever it was that needed to be. They had to learn the skills, and that's what we have to do too, learn the skills. There's lots of things that I don't know how to do yet, but I've had to put myself into school as well and learn things that is going to help me. I think Blade's given up on me on the tractor. I think he thinks it's easier and safer for him to run the tractor than it is to continue to give me lessons. And that's fine with me. Somebody's got to babysit the grandkids, and it might as well be me, Mom. So I hope I've encouraged your hearts a little bit today, guys, to look out for one another, to circle the wagons, not to be in fear, but to, you know, take a defensive posture, and to see the storm clouds coming, to see the things, and be aware of our surroundings, knowing that things could happen, may not happen. And so let's all be aware of that, and pull together, encourage one another, strengthen one another, look out for your households, keep preparing, get those bandages if you need the bandages. Coffee, ooh, that's a biggie for me. Make sure you have plenty of supply. And I'm making light of it, I know, and don't mean to. But it's just a way to encourage your hearts, make you smile a little bit, know that you need to look out, look at your pantry, take stock, and put some things back. We see things on the horizon, and it might just be time to circle your wagons. Until next time, guys, this is Josie. I love you guys. I really do. Keep looking well to the ways of your household. And until next time, we're gone.